Now we have reached the section about transforming najasa into something pure. So we read here in this light summary or small summary about excused filth and then about unexcused filth. And now the author wants to talk about how to transform or how najasa is transformed into something pure. So fundamentally, for most najasa, for most filthy material, you cannot turn it into something pure. Like feces, you can't turn it into a golden nugget, for example, or something pure. It's going to stay filthy. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not useful. Najasa could be useful. Like the manure, the farmers use the manure for fertilizer. And maybe some other kind of najasa is uh, flammable. So it could be used for lanterns or something else, some sort of fuel. Manure is the feces of the animal, like the cows and the horses. So the farmers, they take this feces and they use it to grow the crops. That's useful, but it's not going to become pure. Yes, it is permissible. Just because something is filthy doesn't mean you have to just have nothing to do with it. And there's nothing you can do with it. Or, for example, what if you had a gash, like a cut on your arm? So the alcohol will sterilize, yani help to prevent infection. Now, I don't know if you pour beer on there or wine. I don't know if that's going to do the same thing. But other alcohol, like the ether or ethanol alcohol that we talked about, this will help to prevent infection. It's najasa though. So it's useful. You might even choose not to use it, but I'm just saying it's useful. Like a dog. A dog is very useful. No, you can't purchase that kind of alcohol because there's a rule that you cannot purchase najasa. But if you happen to have some, or you happen to have access to some, and you had a cut, and you wanted to treat your cut, and maybe you didn't have something else, then you might use that. Especially, I told you, didn't I tell you? The scholars, what did they say about contaminating yourself with najasa? Is it permissible or is not? Who can tell me what's the consensus? The consensus of the scholars when it's not permissible to come in contact with najasa. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But my question is the consensus. What's the consensus? Uh, Now keep in mind here, I just told you this 1 or 2 sessions ago. It's just to remind you How swiftly we forget these religious rules and things that we hear. That's why it's so important to review and review and review. This is for most of us. You'll hear something you won't remember. If you don't review a lesson that you just took today, you're probably going to forget maybe 60% of it in the same day. So, the consensus of all scholars is that you cannot put urine on yourself because of the hadiths about that. No, no, no. Don't say sorry for me. I'm not saying it to you to scold you. I'm just saying it to you to remind you. That's to Yani, so that you will be better students, and me too. Yani, I realize that, but maybe some of the people, they don't realize it. So I'm just reminding you only. Yeah, I expected you're not going to remember, so I just made this a teachable moment inside the lesson. It happens all the time. That's why we have to memorize and review and repeat. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say something 3 times, and he would speak slowly too. Yani, clearly. Slowly, I mean clearly, not swiftly. So the consensus of all scholars is that you cannot put urine on yourself. As for other types of najasa, there's not a consensus that you cannot put it on yourself. According to this difference in opinion, you can put that alcohol on yourself that's najasa for your cut. You just need to wash it off though before you pray. Yani, wash that spot before you pray. So what's our point here? Our point here is that najasa does not turn into something pure except sometimes. And that's what we want to talk about today. And whatever else the author might mention for us. Let's see. So he says, may Allah have mercy upon him. Section: wine is purified if it becomes vinegar by itself. And likewise, the nabith water that had dates or raisins soaking in it. Okay. So, we are now talking about transformation. We are now talking about transformation. The wine is najasa. It is itself transformed from juice. The juice is pure. All the inanimate things are pure. The plants, the stones, except for a few things. The intoxicating liquid is a filthy inanimate substance. And also, yani, the waste that comes out of the living creatures, the waste that comes out of the living creatures, that's uh, filthy, inanimate, filthy material. Yeah, you know what I mean, the urine, the feces, and some other things, blood and pus we talked about. Otherwise, all the inanimate things are pure around you, everything around you. Plastic, the glass, etc. So the juice from the fruit is pure. But then if it sits long enough, it will transform. When it transforms, it becomes intoxicating. When it has the power to intoxicate, then it is filthy. But then that could transform again. Then it transforms into vinegar. When it transforms into vinegar, then it becomes pure. So that's a case of transformation. Since other types of filth cannot be transformed, then what do you have to do? You have to remove them. Remove them. When it comes to a filth that can be transformed, then you can transform it. You don't have to remove it, you can transform it. But when it comes to the filth that can't be transformed, then you need to remove it. And when I tell you right now, you need to remove the najasa, I don't want you to get a wrong impression from what I'm saying. Why would you need to remove najasa? Why would you be obligated to remove najasa? For your prayer, for the sake of your prayer. So if there were najasa on the wall, if there were najasa on a mattress, if there were najasa on something else, on a table or under a dresser, it's not obligatory on you to remove that najasa. You won't be sinful if you leave it there. So when I say a filth that doesn't transform into something pure, you have to remove it, what I mean is if you want to purify the spot. I don't mean you have to remove it because it's obligatory on you. I just mean if you want to purify that spot, you have to remove the najasa. So the wine is purified if it becomes vinegar by itself. By itself means you did not put anything into it to accelerate the transformation process, like sugar or bread or an onion. Why? Why that's a condition? Because if you put, if you have some juice, that's pure. Now, if you put a piece of bread in the juice, okay, it's still pure. The bread is still pure and the juice is still pure. Now, if this wine with a bread in it turns into wine, then the wine is going to contaminate the bread. And then, if this wine with contaminated bread turns into vinegar, then the bread is going to contaminate the vinegar. So that's why it says becomes vinegar by itself. And likewise, the nabidh water, the date-soaked water that had dates or raisins soaking in it, if it becomes wine, yani intoxicating, if it becomes intoxicating, it's najasa. If it transforms into vinegar, it becomes pure. Date-soaked water and raisin-soaked water, well, I know raisin, for what I want to say, raisin-soaked water is good for memory. If you want something that helps your memory, get some water, get a bottle of water, put some raisins in there, and don't let it sit for over 3 days. Just drink from it throughout the 3 days. Interesting thing, if you never did it before, you'll see the raisins start to turn back into grapes. Yani not full fresh grapes. Yani flimsy ones. Raisins are good for your memory anyway. If you want, unless you're concerned about getting cavities in your teeth, Just eat raisins all day. Inshallah, you will find that it improves your memory well. Also, honey is good for memory. Eat some raisins and drink some honey before you take a test. Okay. وَجِلْدُ الْمَيْتَةِ the skin of the animal becomes pure when tanned. Okay, so same thing here. The skin of the animal was pure. Then when the animal died, it transformed into najasa. So you can skin that animal, scrape the blood and flesh from the underside of the skin with something acidic, like dried pomegranate peels, or like bird droppings. Acidic means if you put your tongue to it, it stings. But don't ask me how they knew about that for bird droppings, but they knew about that. I asked actually. Yani, that's an old knowledge, so I don't know how somebody knew about that. Old knowledge, I mean, for centuries and centuries. I'll just trust that it's been verified. I won't put my tongue there myself. So, like dried pomegranate peels or like bird feces, you use that, something acrid, acidic, to scrape off the blood and stuff from the underside of the skin. And also, you're going to remove the hair from the outer side of the skin. When you do that, then you have tanned the skin, but it's still contaminated. So all that's left for you to do now is to rinse it off. Once you rinse it off, then you can use it, what, for prayer carpet, for jacket, whatever you want. And the story here is similar to the story about the wine, which is that it was pure, then it turned filthy, then you can turn it back into something pure. When it comes to the animals, that's only for the skin. So going back to the elephant tusks, that's not skin. So those are najasa according to the Shafi'i school. You cannot salvage anything but skin. And a few hairs left on the outside is excused. If you're interested in this, if you want, look at some YouTube videos about tanning skin, making leather. It's pretty interesting stuff. Nowadays, people use chemicals. They use stuff that I mean, I don't know if they have old stuff too from back in the day, but you dump the whole skin in there, then you pull it out, then the hair will just come right off. You don't have to pull it out, like pluck it out. Mm. And as you know, dog skin or pig skin cannot be purified because it was filthy when the animal was alive. If it were filthy when the animal was alive, then it's not going to become pure after it died. Do you know why your skin doesn't rot right now? It's because you're alive. Your skin is not rotting right now because you're alive. And when is the skin going to rot? When you die. What does tanning do for the skin? It preserves it. How come your wallet's not rotting and stinking, your shoes not rotting and stinking, or anything else you have that's made of leather? It's just staying without rotting. That's because it's tanned. What's better for keeping the skin from rotting? Being alive or tanning? Being alive. If the animal skin were filthy while the animal is alive, then it's not going to become pure after it dies. Tanning is not going to make it pure. And basically, tanning restores the purity. Tanning restores the purity of the skin. Otherwise, you can tan anything else. Snake skin, alligator, crocodile skin, and other things. It's not a condition for the animal to be edible to be able to tan its skin. You can tan anything's skin except a dog or a pig. Or any hybrid from them. So, any questions so far? Then the author says, Rahimahullah, when something is contaminated by the urine of a dog, pig, or anything born from either of them, or its saliva or manure or sweat or its wet body, like the dog was wet and then he shook and sprayed you with the water, just contaminated you. Then it must be washed 7 times, this contaminated thing, one of which would be with pure, purifying soil. This means that the filth of a dog or a pig is intense because it requires 7 washes and 1 wash mixed with soil. That's the Shafi'i school. That's not a consensus. It's not a consensus. What we are saying here, this is the Shafi'i school and other schools. Not all schools. Uh, Some schools, they said the dog is not filthy, but you have to wash it 7 times, 1 time mixed with soil, because the Prophet said so. He said not because filthy, but because the Prophet said so. Some schools, they said just the dog's mouth only, because the Prophet said if the dog laps, meaning licks from one of your bowls. So they said not the whole body, just the mouth. So there's not a consensus here. And some schools said the pig is not even filthy, because the hadiths don't mention the pig, they mention the dog. For those who said that the dog is filthy, the hadiths about this is the evidence. For those who said the pig is filthy, their evidence is qiyas, legal comparison. They compared the pig to the dog. And they said if the dog is this filthy, then the pig is worse, and therefore has the same rule as the dog. Question, is that the same for when someone eats pork? Like, would their saliva become najas? Yes. Contaminated. Someone eats pork and talks to you in your face until he purifies it. Najasa will not stop being a contaminated spot will not stop being contaminated until it is properly cleaned or washed. Drinking water, well, so if you want, go according to those who said it's not filthy. But in the Shafi'i school, drinking water is not enough. They need to put some soil in their mouth too. MashaAllah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and this is one rule here. This rule is not special to the mouth. Like there's not a special rule for the mouth here. Here, where the author says something. What does it say in Arabic? Shaykh. وَإِذَا تَنَجَّسَ شَيْء بِبَوْلِ كَلْبٍ أَوْ خِنْزِيرٍ. If something. So whatever fits that word something, it applies. You're welcome. So it must be washed 7 times, one of which would be with pure purifying soil. Pure means not filthy. Purifying means it has not yet been used for purification. Like it's not soil that has already been used to clean some other dog najasa. Nor is it soil that has been used for tayammum. You said, if we were to take by another saying, do we need to know all the details or can I just take by the saying? I mean, if you take by. You can take by the saying and pray according to the Shafi'i school. Your prayer will be valid. When I say pray according to the Shafi'i school, what I mean is fulfilling the integrals and conditions of the prayer according to a Shafi'i. That's going to cover you for the other school. Except for a school that says you have to do the first tashahhud. Some schools say you have to do the first tashahhud. So if you do the first tashahhud, then your prayer will be covered according to the Shafi'i school and other schools. If you do a prayer according to the Shafi'i school, your prayer will be covered according to other schools too. You're welcome. He says, if the soil itself is contaminated by the dog, Then sufficient is pouring pure water over it 7 times. Yani, how do you purify najasa, dog contaminated soil? How do you purify dog contaminated soil? By just pouring water over it 7 times. You don't have to apply soil to the soil. Whatever is contaminated, the author says, by the urine of a baby boy who did not eat other than milk is sprayed with water that must overcome the spot. We covered that already. Must overcome the spot means removes all the traces of the filth, even if it doesn't drip. So you see, he finished talking about transformation. He talked about transformation when he talked about wine and skin. There's other cases of transformation, but these are the important ones for the chapter of purification. Then he went to talk about intense filth, which we just finished now, about the dog and the pig. Then he went to talk about light filth, which we already talked about concerning the urine of a baby boy, less than 2 years old, who did not eat other than milk for nutrition. Is sprayed like if you use your fingers to launch water at the spot, with the condition that it overcomes the spot, means hits the entire spot, you don't miss anything, and the traces of the filth are gone, then that's enough to purify the light filth, even if the water does not flow or run. He says the rest of the filthy things are purified by washing them one time, washing them one time. If their flavor, color, or smell vanishes, if the flavor, color, or smell of the najasa vanishes, the remainder of color or smell that is difficult to remove is not harmful. Yes, yani. You have 3 things. Just like water. What are the attributes of najasa? They are the same as the attributes of water. Color, taste, and smell. Color, taste, and smell of najasa versus color, taste, and smell of water. These mujtahids are amazing. SubhanAllah. How they extracted these very consistent rules from the hadiths and the ayat of the Quran. And they came out with very yani, well-oiled machine, all of its parts moving in sync. The remainder of color or smell that is difficult to remove is not harmful, meaning if you exerted effort to remove the color or the smell, but despite your efforts, there remained a stain, a blood stain, for example, or someone might say a skid mark. Despite your efforts, a color remained. Or, despite your efforts, a smell remained. Effort here means like you scrubbed, you scratched, you scraped. You might have even used soap or the like, some cleaning agents. You exerted effort, but the color remains or the smell remains. Then the spot is purified. Word or is important here, not both of them. And notice that the flavor is missing from the sentence. The author didn't mention flavor at all. because flavor does not have the same rule. Yani, if you find flavor of najasa in your mouth, that means there is najasa in your mouth. Physical najasa. That's what the scholars said. If you find the flavor of najasa in your mouth, that means there is physical najasa in your mouth, so it's not excused. As for color or smell, if they remain after exertion of effort, then it's purified. But if there's both of them, color and smell, then it's still filthy. And liquid cannot be purified if it is contaminated liquid other than water. And I think we covered that. I told you about the story of the man who had a vat of olive oil. That olive oil, there was no way to purify it after a mouse fell in there and died. But water, contaminated water, can be purified. Liquid here meaning other than water. What does it say here in the Arabic? وَلَا يَطْهُرُ الْمَائِعُ إِذَا تَنَجَّسَ. Liquid or fluid cannot be purified if it is contaminated by filth. Yani, liquid or fluid other than water. As for water, it can be purified if it's contaminated by adding water to it, resulting in a lot of water without any trace of najasa, then it's purified. Or by removing the najasa from it and removing any changed water from it, and the remaining water is still a lot of water and without any trace of najasa, then it's purified. Or by the large amount of water simply, well, I don't know if this is a condition for it to be a large amount. I was going to say, let me just say it this way. For the filthy traces in the water to vanish. For the filthy traces in the water to vanish by itself. Is it a condition to be a lot of water though? That, let me check. Wallahu alam. Do we finish now? Made it to the section of tayammum. We'll start that inshallah in our next session. Any question? So I like this light summary, Al-Mukhtasar Al-Lateef, which has another name, the small summary, Al-Mukhtasar Al-Saghir. I like it. It is very reminiscent of the summary of obligatory knowledge, in my opinion. It's a little bit more detailed than the summary of obligatory knowledge in some spots. So for learning obligatory knowledge, that book is still better than this one for obligatory knowledge. But for being training wheels for learning fiqh, this is a nice one. And it has sufficient summarization, and the author did a good job. May Allah have mercy on it. Ameen.